Good evening, everyone. I welcome everyone to the July 2024 Council meeting. I declare the meeting open at 6:32 p.m. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Kulin Nation. We offer our respect to the elders of these traditional lands and through them to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, past and present. Mobile phone, I kindly remind everyone to switch phone off or turn to silent. The recording of meeting proceeded. I advise the gallery that this meeting is being recorded and will be available on Council's website. All care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, your presence may be recorded. In accordance with Council governance rule, meeting may not be photographed, filmed, or recorded without the consent of the acting Chief Executive Officer.
We've received no requests for recording the meeting there.
Thank you. For apology and virtual attendance. Councillor, are there any apology for tonight's meeting? 5, 6. I think Councillor Trent is running a few minutes late.
That's right.
Stuck with traffic. Okay, as per Rule 72.3 of the Council's governance rule, I wish to advise that Councillor Bernadette Thomas is attending this meeting remotely. Councillor Thomas, can you please confirm that you can hear and see the meeting?
Yes, Meg, I can hear and see you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Now I can confirm that we can hear and see you as well. Leave of absence. Councillor, are there any leave of absence requests? No, Councillor Leach. Thank you. Conflict of interest. In accordance with the Local Government Act 2020, I ask if any councillor have a conflict of interest in relation to any of the agenda item. No? Yeah, thank you. Public question time. Now, we are now moving to public question time. I will now explain how public question time works. Public question time is managed in accordance with Council's governance rule. Members of the public can submit a maximum of 3 questions prior to commencement of the meeting. As chair, I will decide who answers the question. Public question time is limited to 15 minutes, unless an extension of the public question time is resolved by Council. Okay, now we're reading to
Yes.
The public question time is Council, we receiving a 35 question. Question number 1, Abu Jay asked the following question. I am writing to bring your attention an issue I have observed as a regular driver on Ballarat Road. The Liberty petrol station, located at 199 Ballarat Road, Maidstone, Vic 3012, often causes traffic congestion on Ballarat Road due to vehicle queuing to enter the petrol station. I spoke with the supervisor at Liberty and inquired why customers are not permitted to use the with takeover street entrance. He informed me that the council had not granted permission for this entrance to be used. I am requesting that the council reconsider this decision and allow access to the petrol pump from Whittaker Street. These changes would significantly improve safety and traffic flow on the Ballarat Road, especially during peak hour. I urge the council to visit the site and assess the situation to make a decision that benefits the safety and convenience of our community. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Could I have the Director Infrastructure Service, Mr. Patchett, to respond to that? Thanks.
Thank you, and through the Chair, I can confirm that access to and from Ballarat Road is under the management of the Department of Transport and Planning, and the decision to allow access on Ballarat Road and to restrict access to the petrol station from Whittaker Street was made through the planning process, which was previously endorsed by the Department of Transport and Planning. However, following the issues raised tonight, I can commit to council officers investigating and discussing these issues further with the department, seeking possible remedial actions if appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Pesce. Question number 2, Blair Mather asked the following question. Condition 17 of permit TP 322/2020 Witten Oval redevelopment stipulating that access to Witten Oval and Sperling Resort must remain open to the public at all times except for approving match today. It is noted, however, that access to Witten Oval is provided intermittently and is restricted more than 50% of the time. For example, on Sunday, the 23rd of June, access was fully restricted. Access is also restricted daily between 18 hours to 7 o'clock. Could you please confirm that the above condition is still valid and what action council is taking to ensure that this condition is upheld? Could I ask the acting Director of Planning and Environment Service, Frank, answer this question? Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. The planning permit TP 322/2020 was issued in January 2021, permitting the redevelopment of Witten Oval, including the major sports and recreation facility. The redevelopment is almost complete, with access to Sperling Reserve now open and unfenced along Barclay Street. Regarding condition 17, the Western Bulldogs have confirmed that, except for match days, the Oval is open to the public from 7 a.m. daily and closes at 6 p.m. or at 8 p.m. during daylight savings hours. Council officers have advised the Western Bulldogs that this arrangement does not comply with their obligations under the planning permit, and we are working towards full compliance.
Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. Now, the next question from Corey Phillips asked the following question. Recently, no standing zone were applying in the area of Dickens Street, which has resulted in quite a number of resident parking in Queensville Street. One street further, this has had unfortunately congested an already congested area and has led to residents letting their frustration out of each other. Community members have had their car keyed and smeared mud all their car because they are unable to park anywhere else. Can the no standing zone play on Dixon Street be removed? Could I ask Director from Infrastructure, Mr. Paget, to answer this question?
Thank you, Mayor. So yes, I can confirm that earlier this year, an investigation of traffic and parking arrangements at this location was undertaken, following requests from some local residents to improve traffic safety outcomes within the street. So following that assessment, a recommended solution was developed and notification of the proposed parking changes was shared with residents during March 2024. No standing restrictions were recently installed following broad support from most adjacent residents. However, again, Council does thank you for providing an update on parking issues in Queensville Street that may have been affected due to the safety improvements implemented in Dixon Street. And Council officers would be pleased to meet you on site to discuss this issue further to seek a solution, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, Mr. Patriot. I just acknowledge that Councillor Train just arrived. Thank you, Councillor Train. Now, another question from Corey Phillips. If question 1 cannot be fulfilled, can parking lot be placed along Queensville Street to ensure ordered parking as some residents space their car in a fashion that prevent others from parking? Can you please take that question too?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and we're happy to discuss that in more detail with Mr. Phillips on site. Line parking bays within local and residential streets generally are not implemented, as it often results in reduced car parking numbers. However, we will discuss this further and consider this as part of a potential solution.
Thank you. Another question from Corey. 2P parking sign will most certainly exacerbate the current circumstances. So I ask that this option be omitted. However, is there other method that have been applied in other area that might resolve this issue? Thank you for your time and consideration my question. Can you please answer that, please?
Thank you, Mayor. And again, we're happy to discuss the 2-hour parking issue and any other matters that might help in meeting the solution.
Okay, now I have, thank you very much for that. I have another question from Jenny Harrison. Asked the following question: what were the process of council took in deciding on Yarraville Garden toilet block as the site of the City of Maribyrnong first changing play facility? Can the Acting Director Planning and Environment Service, Frank, to answer that?
Thank
Mr.
you. Through the
O'Brien?
chair.
Thank you.
The Maribyrnong Public Toilet Plan 2019 to 2029 sets out Council's priorities for new and upgraded public toilet facilities across the municipality. The Yarraville Gardens public toilet is identified in the plan as being at the end of its life and requiring renewal. Council was successful in obtaining a grant from the state government of $180,000 towards the cost of construction of a changing places facility, with Yarraville Gardens seen as the ideal location for the city's first changing places facility, given its high utilisation and accessible location.
Thank you. The second question comes from Jenny as well. What consultation was undertaken with the user of changing play facility? Can you please respond to that too?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
Through you again. Council's Disability Advisory Committee received a presentation on the plans for the project back in September 2023. The DAC members, that's the Disability Advisory Committee members, were asked to provide feedback on the concept design, and their feedback was incorporated into the final design. Council also directly engaged with specialist schools and disability service providers in the area who responded favourably to the project as part of the consultation process. No concerns were raised with respect to the proposed location. However, some feedback did also emphasise the need for more facilities across Maribyrnong. Council agrees that our municipality requires more changing places facilities, with the one at Yarraville Gardens intended to be the first of several such facilities across the city. Public consultation was undertaken in October and November 2023 as part of the Yarraville Gardens project master plan. 3 on-site drop-in sessions were held with council officers in attendance to answer questions from the community. Feedback was also sought via council's online feedback tool, Your City, Your Voice, and again, no concerns were raised with respect to the proposed location of the Changing Places facility.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Brien. The next question, the same person, Jenny. Are you willing to consider the decision and look at other locations for the changing play facility?
The construction contract has been awarded for the Yarraville Gardens project, with construction to commence shortly. So accordingly, the location cannot be reconsidered.
Thank you. Now, the other question, Liesl Thomas, on behalf of Maribyrnong Truck Action Group, asked the following question. Number 1, why has council not taken the opportunity to include in its submission to the update of the Victorian freight plan all freight related advocacy to state government matter outlined in council's on air quality improvement plan, including but not limited to advocacy for the truck ban on Williamtown Road, a call for regular air quality monitoring, and proposing change to state planning legislation. Could I have Mr. Director from Infrastructure Service, Mr. Padgett, to respond to that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
So Council does continue to advocate separately to the submission to the government for initiatives identified in Council's Air Quality Improvement Plan. The submission to the Victorian Freight Plan does not specifically identify individual roads, but promotes a more broader integrated approach to transport and land use planning to best manage impacts on the general public and businesses. We will continue to work with Freight Victoria to achieve best outcomes for Maribyrnong and Melbourne's West in the government's update to the Victorian Transport Plan.
Thank you. Now, the same person, another question. Is council willing to include in its submission to Victorian Freight Plan review a statement that council does not support any increasing in the number of high productivity freight vehicle on residential street like Williamtown Road and Moore Street, and a statement that the plan should roll back previous asset approval to protect these residents from the harmful impact of freight? Can you please answer that? Thank you,
Yes,
Mr. Padgett.
thank you again, Mayor. Council's submission on the update to the Victorian Freight Plan provides support for the banning of large freight trucks on 6 key roads when the Westgate Tunnel opens, including use of enforcement cameras and freight industry education on road access arrangements. This will include truck bans day and night on Francis Street and Somerville Road in Yarraville and Buckley Street and Moore Street in Footscray. And just to iterate that this is an initial engagement with Freight Victoria, and we will continue to promote further improvements to the transport network as the update to the Victorian Freight Plan proceeds and Council progresses development of a new integrated transport strategy for the municipality.
Thank you, Mr. Padgett. Now the, sorry.
Chair, can I just say, just in response to that as a question too, I think it's a very fair question to be asked. I sit here, councillors, completely perplexed as to why Williamstown Road has currently and anticipated to have ongoing freight traffic through it, when comparatively Millers Road is twice as wide, only a third as long, has only half of that road with residential properties on it. I think it's bizarre and has me completely confused as to why there is any strategic intent at all to have freight traffic on Williamstown Road. I think that it would be great to see that cease and cease sooner than later.
Could I call for the councillor for them to move, to have a motion to extend the public question time? Councillor Clark, could I have a second? Councillor Tran, all those in favour, could I put into the vote? Okay, it's carried. Thank you. Now, okay, thank you, Councillor Clark.
Excuse me, sorry, ma'am, could I just add something to Councillor Clark's comment, if that's okay?
Yeah.
I just going to say I agree with that. I think for me, we probably don't want to talk about Millers Road because that's not in our area, and we're probably just going to get ourselves in a fight with our neighbours in Hobson's Bay because I know they're fighting for a ban on Millers Road as well. But for me, it's just about saying to the government, you can't be sending a whole heap of trucks down Williamstown Road. They need to find the solution rather than us saying use Millers Road and Hobson's Bay, you know, butting heads with us. I think, yeah, it'd be good if we could include something on just Williamstown Road saying don't do trucks on that. So.
Yeah, I must say, Councillor Crawford, I'm prepared to offer up an alternative for the government and for our brethren kindred in the mighty city of Hobson's Bay.
Well, we can
Because we seem to be getting a lot of their truck traffic for some obscure reason.
Deputy Mayor and Councillor Crawford. Now, the same another question, number 3, come from the Lisa Thomas. Is Council able to provide any further insight into why Council's motion would do the Australian Local Government Association 2024 National General Assembly in relation to the provision of program and initiative addressing air pollution was not passed? Okay, could I ask Mr. Patrick Jett to respond to that too? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So it's our understanding the majority of the member councils did not support Maribyrnong City Council's motion calling for action on air pollution, as there was a view that a number of the actions and initiatives proposed are already being implemented in various parts of Australia.
Okay, thank you. Now, next question comes from Lingard, asked the following question. The Lake Street West Footscray site show the first sign of real-world commencement in early July 2024. According to Council last communication, the work was to commence in February 2024 and end before July 2024. Also, the map and work description given earlier indicated substantially more improvement work than what appear in current map designing information coal field sign hanging at the site. Can Council please confirm all the current work, investigate that of the final site work, explain any difference and reason between the original plan and the current plan, and provide an explanation for the delay in work commencement and the completion? Mr. Patch, can you please reply to that? Thanks.
Yes, thank you. I'd start by saying that given the cost of the overall plan to implement the plan, this project or master plan will need to be delivered in stages. And just to say that Council has supported the delivery of the works at the former Leigh Street Nursery site with funding in last year's budget and again in this year's budget. Those works are being guided by the Leigh Street Nursery concept plan that was endorsed by Council at the December 2023 Council meeting. So the stage 1 works includes new turf, irrigation, a gathering circle, new paths and trees, and will conclude and is on track to conclude in September 2024. The community was informed of the works via a letterbox drop and on-site signage that linked to a project page on Council's website, which we encourage you to visit. The turf works were delayed by a month due to weather and to enable better establishment. Officers are currently working through the stage 2 scope of works and have engaged the Bunurong Land Corporation to support the development of that scope. The community will continue to be informed and the local residents through the project page on Council's website, and the stage 2 scope of works are likely to commence in April 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Padgett. Now, there's another question come from the same person, Kling. Crucian Park, the Stony Creek Park area between Parramatta Road and Robert Street and Footscray Cemetery are lovely tree area with some native scrub and grasses. But there seem to be limited deliberating plant flowered area. What plan does Council have in the future to beautify these space for greater resident amenity? Could Council plant more native flowering bushes, scrub and native grasses in this specific space, and perhaps plant box of the same in the other shop strip and village mall site? Could I have Mr. Infrastructure Director answer this question too? Thank you.
Yes,
Mr.
thank you,
Padgett,
Mayor.
thanks.
Firstly, it's good to hear Mr Lingard is enjoying the lovely open space at Cruikshank Park. I can add that Council's annual program includes planting thousands of plants in open spaces alongside the Maribyrnong River and Stony Creek. Council coordinated a planting day in Cruikshank Park last week, actually, and with National Tree Day this weekend, we hope to plant over 4,000 trees in total, many of which are understory plantings and flowering plants. The trees, shrubs, grasses and ground covers selected for planting are native and or preferably Indigenous plants to the local area to promote biodiversity and withstand long dry periods and, depending on the location, inundation to flooding when these waterways flood, as Stony Creek often does.
Thank you, Mr. Padgett.
Through the chair, can I just
yeah,
say
sure.
that on Sunday in Cruikshank Park we did plant some 500 different different plants of a variety of species. It was great to see. We had something like some 40 participants on the afternoon between 2 and 4. It was one of the best planting days that we've had in spite of the inclement weather. It was a really great outcome. And can I say, Mayor, I'd really like to thank Martin, the park ranger. I can't think of his surname offhand, but brilliant job. He's out there, committed and really enthusiastic when it comes to helping the really little kids. And I mean, it's great to see parents are bringing out children 2, 3, 4 years old, and these kids are actually actively getting involved in the planting process. It was a really good outcome in Cruikshank Park on Sunday.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Now the next question from the same person. In the current economic climate and considering residents with greater transport access need and mobility need, could Council consider operating a limited but free community buses service to allow residents to more easily get to significant council site like offices and chamber, library and sporting facility, i.e. Maribyrnong Aquatic Centre, as well as shopping strip and village mall centre and other transport hub? Could I have the Acting Director Community Service, Melissa Itwood, to respond to that? Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Council currently provides a community transport service to assist older people and people with disability to remain actively connected with their local community. The service aims to assist eligible residents to continue with their usual activities, such as attending social groups, shopping or medical appointments, enabling them to stay well, active and socially connected. The service is designed to support independence and access to a range of community activities, including short trips to shopping centres, community centres and social outings. Residents currently receive weekly or fortnightly services within the community transport service schedule. These transport arrangements are designed to align with programs, services and community facilities offered by Council. This service is a fully funded Council program and we welcome opportunities to improve and strengthen greater access for residents to significant Council sites in the community.
Thank you, Mrs. Lisa Wood. Could I ask the Acting CEO to read the next question?
Certainly, thank you, Mayor, and through you. So Fletcher Bubb has asked the following questions. Regarding Maribyrnong Council Civic Precinct and Community Hub redevelopment, A, what is the current forecast total cost to complete this project, brackets including interest, holding and soft costs, and also this was originally reported as at $39 million, and B, when was the project fully, when will this project be fully delivered and opened? Originally reported completion date was late in 2024. We would appreciate more information and timely updates on the project completion. It would appear that the Council website has not been updated since early 2023. So through you, Mayor, I'm happy to report that the project budget is comprised of the following. Firstly, construction cost is at $39.8 million with a further contingency of $3.2 million. Permits, approvals, consultants, administration and loan servicing totals $5.5 million, representing a total budget of $48.5 million. This complex project does remain on budget, and I'm also pleased, Mayor, to report that it is on target for completion late in 2024. The website does provide the community with progress reports, and this was last updated on the 10th of May 2024.
Thank you.
Fletcher Bubb also asks the following question. Regarding McPherson Street North tree planting, the project is now in its 20th month, still without an approved landscape plan. Council officers have previously provided targeted milestone dates that have now long passed. McPherson Street North currently has dead and dying trees, with decades worth of trees having been pulled out and paved over without replacement. When will the Council approve the McPherson Street North landscape plan for release to the public? When will these works commence on the tree planting of McPherson Street North? We request hard target dates for project management and task actioning. And through you, Mayor, I'll ask our Director of Infrastructure Services, Patrick Jess, to respond to that, please. Mr.
Thank
Jess.
you. Thank you. Through you, Mayor. So Council proposes to, will be engaging with residents of McPherson Street on the proposed landscape plan in August, and providing residents overall support the plan. The works, including tree removal and tree planting, will commence in September.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Through you, Mayor. So Deborah Roos also asked the following questions. In relation to the cat containment / curfew survey, has the Council team considered the findings and recommendations from the Banyule Council research program on the benefits of free desexing programs? And through you, Mayor, I'll just ask our Acting Director of Planning and Environment, Fran O'Brien, to respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. The current cat containment and curfew survey has recently closed and staff are reviewing the results from this important community engagement program. The animal management team regularly consults with other councils around any insights that may inform improvements to our program at Maribyrnong, and we are aware of the program at Banyule City Council. We've recently applied for a grant with the Department of Agriculture to implement a subsidised or free cat desexing program, and we are awaiting the outcome of this application. Maribyrnong City Council values the role that pets play in the community, and our programs reflect caring and responsible management of roaming or stray cats. We seek to work with all stakeholders to ensure that the lessons from Banyule and other council areas where similar policies have been employed can inform our program at Maribyrnong. We'll continue to employ this approach where we seek to reunite lost cats with their owners and encourage responsible pet ownership and the rehoming of cats while protecting the safety of the community.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien.
Thanks. The next question is also from Deborah, who asks, under the Domestic Animal Management Plan, will ongoing support for community cat rescuers who are saving and rehoming pets who have been abandoned or roaming be established, and how will the council ensure that cat haters are not incited to deem roaming cats as illegal and therefore open to attack or harm or cruelty? Cat rescuers and semi-owned cats or colonies deserve to be safe in the community. And if I can also ask Ms O'Brien to please respond to that.
Through the Chair, we recognise the opportunity to involve community cat rescue teams and foster providers to add a stronger dimension to our program. This is currently being explored and likely to be formalised in the next Domestic Animal Management Plan. This will further build on our already strong program operated through the Lost Dogs Home, which supports and rehomes lost animals in the community, including cats. As part of any changes made to cat curfew rules, there will be an education program to ensure the community are aware of any changes to council laws, and our animal management officers will continue to work with the community to ensure a safe environment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is from Harrison Nathan, who asked the following questions. Can council reconsider the cat curfew, which will kill more wildlife, not less, and instead implement a community cat program? Cat curfews raise costs 6 times more to all residents. Scientific evidence shows that cat curfews fail. And if I can please ask you, friend, to respond to that.
Sir O'Brien.
Through the Chair, as previously noted, the current cat containment and curfew survey has recently closed, and staff are reviewing the results from this community engagement program. Investigating a cat curfew is an action identified in Council's Domestic Animal Management Plan 2021 to 2025 to ensure that cats in our city remain healthy and safe.
Thank you. The next question, also from Harrison Nathan, is what will Maribyrnong Council do to aid or fund feline rescuers? They spend many hours, including out in the early hours, and strive to raise funds to save, home and treat animals. Can council start paying for necessary vet treatments, desexing for the rising number of homeless kittens? Acting Director, Fran O'Brien.
Yep.
Extension of time.
Oh, okay. Could I have Councillor to move to extension another 50 minutes? Councillor Carter and second Councillor Clark. All in favour? To carry. Okay, thank you. Next one, thanks. Thank you, Councillor Tran.
Thanks.
Next.
If we can respond to that
If you
question,
can
please.
respond
Thank
to
you.
that.
In response to that question, through the Chair, as previously noted in the prior question, we do recognise the opportunity to involve community cat rescue teams and foster providers to add a stronger dimension to our program, and this will be explored and likely be formalised in our next Domestic Animal Management Plan and further build on our already strong program operated through the Lost Dogs Home, as was mentioned, and we will also await the outcome of the grant that we've applied for through the Department of Agriculture. Any changes that we do make to cat curfew rules will be part of an education program to ensure the community are aware of those changes, and our animal management officers will continue to work with all people in the community to ensure a safe environment.
Thank you, Mrs O'Brien. Next question.
Thank you. Our next question, also from Harrison Nathan, is what is Maribyrnong Council doing to prevent hate speech and hate crimes towards felines as well as females? False names of feral and crazy cat lady are rising, along with threats of shooting, hunting, maiming, if seen on the street. What is Council doing for equality? Dogs can go shopping, drink in street cafes and pubs, run in parks and frequent public places. Why are felines and carers being prevented visibility and respect? Domestic urban cats are not feral. Don't the homeless deserve some help, not harm and fear? And if I can also ask our Acting Director, Ms O'Brien, to respond to that one.
Mrs O'Brien.
Thank you. Through the Chair. The implementation of a number of inclusive community actions as part of our Council Plan 2021 to 2025 have ensured that Council is delivering on the strategic outcomes that support wellbeing, healthy and safe living and connection to the community.
Thank you. Next question.
Our next question is from Pierre Viro, who asked the question, how much did Council pay ratio consultants for the new ITS, that's the Integrated Transport Strategy discussion paper? How much will the new ITS cost? If I can ask our Director of Infrastructure Services, Mr Jess, to respond to that, please.
Patrick Zepp, thank you.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mayor. So the cost of the Maribyrnong Integrated Transport Strategy discussion paper was approximately $40,000, the first stage of the process, and within budget. we're yet to advertise for the full integrated transport strategy document, and therefore are unable to confirm a cost at this point in time.
Thank you, Mayor. So the next question is from Elena Pereira, who asks, how will the new ITS ensure Council's myriad of other strategic documents and action plans will be implemented in regard to facilitating a mode shift to activate transport? If I can also ask Mr Jess to respond to that, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. The development of the new integrated transport strategy will include consideration of all current council strategies and policies, including the promotion of mode shift to active transport.
Thank you. Next one.
Thank you. The next question, also from Elena Pereira, is, despite no limitations within the existing ITS, how will the new ITS ensure active transport and Green Street projects proceed?
With Patrick Chatfield.
Thank you. And through the Mayor, again, we're looking to the future there, but we are anticipating that the new integrated transport strategy, when endorsed, will provide an adopted set of actions to support active transport and street improvement projects that will deliver on Council's policy objectives.
Thank you. Our next question, also from Elena Pereira, is how will the new ITS contribute to a best practice approach regarding participatory democracy, facilitating active transport literacy and high quality tactical urbanism trials iterated following community feedback?
Okay. Mr Patrick Jeff again.
Thank you. And through the Mayor,
You want to read that again, please?
Certainly a mouthful. Happy to read that again, Deputy Mayor. How will the new ITS contribute to a best practice approach regarding participatory democracy, facilitating active transport...
Participatory democracy. Yeah, sorry.
Active transport literacy and high quality tactical urbanism trials iterated following community feedback?
Acting Chief Executive, could you just explain what is meant by the tactical, what was it?
Well, I think in the first instance, Deputy, we might get the Director to respond to the question, and then if there's clarity required, we can go from there.
Yeah, thank you. Through the Chair. So again, the integrated transport strategy is yet to be developed, and we don't want to be presumptuous to what the community feedback might be through that process. But we can confirm that these types of initiatives outlined in the question will be considered as part of the development of the strategy.
No, that's okay. Chief Exec, Acting Chief Exec.
Thank you. Our next question is from Martin Wirt, who asked the following questions. How has the declaration of a health emergency in May 2023 impacted on council operations and decisions, and what specific actions have resulted from that declaration to date?
The question.
Yes, Jess, thank you.
To answer through the Chair, we did receive this question late in the evening, about 5:47 tonight before the meeting. It is quite a complex question in nature, and we'll be taking this one on notice and coming back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
The next question is, will community engagement on the Maribyrnong Integrated Transport Strategy 2025 refresh include a direct approach to key community groups such as the Maribyrnong Truck Action Group, MTAG, and Save Willie Road to seek their input and thoughts? If I can...
Patrick Jess.
Yeah, thank you again through the Chair. So should Council proceed with the officer recommendation for the Maribyrnong Integrated Transport Strategy 2025 refresh, a comprehensive stakeholder engagement plan will be developed and to support the development of that process, and certainly both organisations mentioned in that question are very welcome to participate in that process.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Now, Council has received several further questions relating to the Integrated Transport Strategy. As per Governance Rule 52.9, these questions have been grouped with the single response provided. Would Acting CEO please read it out?
Thank you, Mayor. And so I'll read all of the questions and then we'll go to a response.
Yep. Thank you.
So the first three questions are from Arjun Kumar, who asked the following questions. The road safety section, Australia's had a jump in road traffic fatalities last year and is no chance to meet the goal of reducing 2021 fatalities by 50% by 2030. In brackets, says an opportunity for road safety is to align speed limits with the safe systems approach. This means 30 kilometres for streets where people cycle. Will council implement this? The second question is, the bus analysis makes no statement of how easy or how hard it is to get from one part of the municipality to another via bus. Will an analysis like that of the Better Buses for the West campaign be undertaken? And the third question was, why has the discussion paper abandoned the hierarchy of the previous ITS? The next three questions are from John Simons, who asks the following questions. In the Integrated Transport Strategy Discussion Paper Section 7, the Strategic Directions recommends a set of strategic directions and clear goals so success can be measured. How will these goals be identified? Will Council undertake a community priority study to help determine the goals, for example, place score? The second question was, why is there only a focus on commuting when half of all trips are under 4.2 kilometres and 25% of all trips are under 1.6 kilometres? These are the trips 85% of Maribyrnong's population say they will take by bike, and will include the quadruple S trips, which is schools, shops, stations and social places, some of which are known as mobilities of care. Will Council focus on these trips that include much more of the community than long commuting trips, mostly undertaken by mammals, which is middle-aged men in lycra? And the third question is, the ITS discussion paper expects that an additional 28,000 cars are to be registered in Maribyrnong by 2040 and road capacity reached by 2031. It also states that it is not possible to continue to provide for this traffic growth longer term. One suggestion is a diversity of end-trip facilities for bicycle riders, despite no evidence that this has a significant impact. How important is this issue to Council, and what other options are Council willing to consider to avoid the expected gridlock in 7 years? Will Council consider the Downs-Thompson paradox in transport planning?
Yeah. Next person.
The next question is from Pierre Viro, who asks, Council's 2020-2030 bicycle strategy echoes research that shows the main barrier to cycling participation is safety, and that protected bike lanes increase the safety of riders. How many times are the words protected bike lanes mentioned in the new Integrated Transport Strategy discussion paper? How many times are the words bike lane mentioned in the new ITS discussion paper? Elena Pereira asks the following three questions. How will the new ITS ensure Council's myriad of other forgive me, Mayor, I think we've actually asked these, we've actually answered those questions from Elena.
Yep. The next one from Martin Wood.
Yes, and the final question from Martin Wood is, why does Council's submission to the update of the Victorian Freight Plan not mention of Council's May 2023 declaration of a health emergency in our city due to the health impacts of air and noise pollution from heavy trucks using the city's streets? If I can ask Mr Jess to respond to those questions on just please.
Just answer that one specifically before the other group ones. I think it's a bit separate in that the Victorian Freight Plan submission's the first part of that engagement, and Council's response was broad in nature, but we'll be certainly participating in more discussions as that plan progresses. And in relation to the grouped questions, the Maribyrnong Integrated Transport Strategy discussion paper has been prepared to commence an initial conversation with the Maribyrnong community on development of a new integrated transport strategy. It introduces a set of 6 draft strategic directions that will be refined following this initial engagement process. At this stage in the development of the new strategy, it is not intended to provide final solutions for our road, rail and path networks. Further targeted conversations with the community and state government to address all the questions raised tonight will form part of the development of the new strategy. And just to add that we are going through a genuine engagement process as part of the development strategy, and all those that raised questions tonight, we very much welcome their participation in this next month of engagement.
Thank you. Wow, okay, that's all.
That's all the questions we have, ma'am.
Thank you so much. So, I didn't know, I declare the public question time is closed. We can move into agenda item 6.1, confirmation of minute of the council meeting on the 18th of June 2024. Can I call for councillor to move that minute of the ordinary council meeting held on the 18th of June 2024 to be confirmed? Councillor Tran?
Per the officer's recommendation that council confirms the minutes of the council meeting held on 18 June 2024.
Thank you. Could I call for this councillor to second the motion? Councillor Clark? Are there any questions or upon the clarification, councillor? Would the mover would like to speak to the motion? Or to the minute? I put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? So I declare the motion is carried. Agenda item 6.2, confirmation of the confidential minute of the council meeting, 18th of June 2024. Can I call for councillor to move the motion in regard to the agenda 6.2? Councillor Carter?
As per the officer recommendation, that council confirms the confidential minutes of the council meeting held on the 18th of June 2024.
Could I call for councillor to second the motion? Councillor Clark? Are there any questions or point of clarification, councillor? No. I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Oh, now again, I declare the motion is carried. The agenda item 6.3, confirmation of the minute of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting on the 19th of March 2024. Can I call for the councillor to move that minute of the Audit and Risk Committee of the 19th of March 2024 to be confirmed? Councillor? Councillor Carter?
Okay. As per the officer recommendation that council confirms the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on the 19th of March 2024.
Okay, thank you. Can I call for the councillor to second the motion? Councillor Tran? Are there any questions or point of clarification, councillor? No, no. I would put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? No, I declare the motion is carried. Report from the committee. Councillor, there are no report from the committee to be tabled at the meeting. All right. The petition, advise councillor that in accordance with the council meeting proceeded, a councillor might read the petition. Petition number 8.1, petition promoting cat enclosing and desexing. Can I call for councillor to move the motion? Councillor Clark?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Councillors, I move that the Council, 1, receives and notes the petition requesting petition Maribyrnong promote cat enclosures and desexing, and 2, request the Chief Executive Officer to consider the petition and determine the appropriate response. I commend the motion to you, councillors.
Thank you. Can I call for councillor to second the motion? Councillor Carter? Are there any questions or point of clarification, councillor? Now I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? No again, so I declare the motion is carried. Agenda item 9.1, fair access policy. I call for councillor to move a motion in regarding to the item 9.1. Councillor Clark?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Councillors, I move that Council 1 notes the feedback received from the draft Fair Access Policy and Fair Access Policy Action Plan, and 2, endorses the Fair Access Policy shown at Attachment 1 and the Fair Access Policy Action Plan shown at Attachment 2. Councillors, I commend this motion to you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. I call for the councillor to second the motion. Councillor Tran? Sorry. Are there any questions upon a clarification, councillor? Would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, just very briefly, Your Worship. Councillors, the Fair Access Policy very much is underpinned by the 6 principles of inclusivity, full participation, equitable access and equal representation, encouraging and supporting user groups and prioritising user groups committed to equality. The fact is, councillors, what we're seeing now is a greater number, a sheer mass volume of women, girls, wanting to participate in sport. But what's been said to me, and I can say unequivocally, councillors, and two live examples, one is Yarraville Cricket Club and the other is Yarraville Glory, the mighty Yarraville Doxa Soccer Club, where both of these clubs have women absolutely chafing at the bit to play these sports. But quite simply, there is not the change room facilities that are fundamental to being able to access and play these sports. If we're honest, if we're fair dinkum about ensuring that we are inclusive, we need facilities, we need infrastructure that is going to allow this to occur. Councillors, I think we need to be clear. We need not just change facilities and opportunities for women to undertake these sports, but we actually need the sporting facilities themselves to be available. I make the point here, councillors, the elders of the jurisdiction of Moree, the elders of the jurisdiction of Alice Springs are very clear. The reason why they have such difficulties, such problems with their young people is quite simply, and I'm paraphrasing the words of the elders of these communities, there's not enough for the kids to do. If we're fair dinkum about ensuring that our children have a pathway that is pro-social, not a pathway that inadvertently is antisocial, we have to provide facility. Understanding the needs of women is a long time coming, and thank God it has finally arrived. And now let it arrive like a train with a roar. Councillors, I commend this motion to you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Would the seconder would like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, and then briefly, Your Worship, I won't go into that as much detail as Councillor Clark, but so as to endorse not only the policy but also the action plan. For those in the community who may not have the time to go through the entire policy in itself, the action plan well and truly speaks to Council's intentions as to how we wish to execute this policy over time. You'll see that it isn't just about executing long-term projects or big fancy projects. It's quite honestly about making sure that our present facilities are audited and ensuring that they then are upgraded and improved to provide the relevant needed facilities for our residents. This is about doing what should have been done long ago, and council staff have acknowledged that, and they're now coming up to the task and saying, well, this is what we can do, this is what we should be doing to mend the wrongs of the past. It's no surprise to anyone here that sports is something that is enjoyed by all, regardless of gender and sex. And as such, it's not just council's responsibility, but albeit governments in general responsibility to ensure that it's accessible to all. Just as we like to ensure education is accessible to all, we want to ensure that other parts of life are just as easy to get to as education. So I endorse the motion, Your Worship, and to keep it brief, I think it's a wonderful plan.
Thank you, Councillor
Nice.
Tran. I need a speaker for the motion. Councillor Holgate.
I think all the general points that need to be made have already been made. I wanted to address just one specific point in the action plan, point 2.4, which reads, ensure women and girls are equitably represented in leadership and governance roles within community sports clubs. I think this is a particularly important one to highlight because it is not untypical that in many leadership bodies of community sports clubs, understandably, you get a mirroring of the same traditional roles that women are forced into in society in general. So, for example, you will not quite often find the treasurer is a woman or the secretary is a woman, But less often will you find that, including in junior clubs, I'm not just talking about senior clubs where maybe, you know, there's different things going on, where the women will be president. I think in terms of that strategic element of leadership, I think specific sort of attention to that, reference to that is important. And I think in terms, moving forward in terms of the sort of data we collect and so forth, I think it'd be useful to collect that sort of data. But also maybe to look at, I mean, this is obviously a bit of pie in the sky stuff, but to look down the track at what we can do working with VU and our collaborations there in terms of training and so forth around that, because I think that's a particular aspect of the action plan, which is good, but I think we need to really focus in on it and work on it if it's going to, you know, bear the sort of fruit that we want it to.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Councillor. Any speaker for the motion? Councillor Carter?
Just to pick up on Councillor Hawker's point, I think that's really important because I was down at Shorten Oval on the weekend for the women's finals game and speaking to, they are men that are in the executive positions of that club, but the club was overrun with women and young girls. And if you think of the difference in the last 5 years at that club, you know, you can't be what you can't see, right? And young girls are there cheering on their idols in the seniors game, and they will go on to play footy, but we need to emulate that. We need to be, you know, ensuring that those leadership positions are also held by women. So I think it's a great piece of work that's actually happening at the state level, and councils have to be working towards this now. Fortunately, Maribyrnong, you know, we launched that we were doing this last year. We've been, you know, one of the most progressive councils when it comes towards working towards gender equity. But there's also another piece to that as well. And today, the Victorian State Government announced that put her name on it. So I'm on the board of Gender Equity Victoria, and we launched today. You know, there are hundreds of buildings and, you know, community places, and there are very few, and roads even, things like that. But if you look at community spaces, very few are named after women. So that is another area where we're trying to, you know, shift the dial on that and look at, you know, at one point there were more statues, and I think there still are, of dogs and horses, than there are women in the state. So looking at how we begin to have, and all of it, you know, sometimes, you know, you'll only get one or two at a time, but we're progressively working towards that with the state. But it's, again, you can't be what you can't see, and having that conversation about women in those positions. But certainly, I just look at the last 5 years at the club and all the young girls that want to play footy now. And, I mean, it was a challenge on the weekend. You had the men's, one of the men's, I think it was a seniors game, playing directly afterwards. So they had to keep, they were doing their warm-up loops, but couldn't get back into the change rooms because the women had to get back in. And obviously we have a plan for short and reserve, thank goodness, and we'll be able to update that. But it's very evident the challenges that we're facing, the strains, given the rise of women's and, you know, participation.
Thank you. Okay, any speaker for the motion? Councillor Crawford.
Thank you. Just wanted to add, I agree with everything that's been said. Obviously, it's really important that we have equality across the traditional male sports, but I think, and I'm glad to see it's been addressed with an action, is it's also really important that we remember that women and girls have been playing sport for a long time, but just not in the traditional male sports. These sports like netball, dance, gymnastics, I know the sports that my wife and daughter love. Traditionally, they haven't been supported by council. You know, you get a footy ground, a cricket ground at every local reserve, but, you know, you don't always get netball facilities, dance facilities, gymnastics facilities. So it's good to see that we're also looking at the inequity that has happened there with, you know, women's sports generally being the poor cousin, and about trying to get equality between the sports as well as within the sports. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to see that there will be more support for women's sport.
Any speaker
netball,
for the
basketball.
motion? I would like to say a few words. I really, firstly, I would like to thank you so much for Director of Infrastructure and Paul, Mr. Patchett and Paul, the staff organising such a wonderful report like this. And I really quite like the fair access policy. It's with 6 principles: inclusivity, full participation, equality, access and use, equal representation, encouraging and supporting user group, and prioritize user group committing equality. I think it's nothing, it's a barrier for women or female to playing a sport for male, regardless, whatever, then there's nothing's barriers about gender that they can do. I think girl can do as like boy can. So it's a very important to give a try and have a go with that, and I really wholeheartedly supported it. And this is it's great to see that the policy is implemented with our council, and thank you so much for all the staff who's involved. Okay, any speaker against the motion? And now I would put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion is carried. Thank you. Agenda item 9.2, electric vehicle charging infrastructure policy 2024. I call for councillor to move the motion in regarding to agenda item 9.2. Councillor Crawford.
The council, yep, got the right one. One, note the outcomes of the community engagement process for the draft electric vehicle charging infrastructure policy shown in attachment 2. And 2, endorse the electric vehicle charging infrastructure policy 2024 shown at attachment 1.
Thank you. Could I call for councillor to second the motion? Councillor Clark. Are there any questions upon a clarification, councillor? The mover would like to speak to the motion. Councillor
Yeah, thanks. Just
Crawford.
briefly, I think we all know that the number of EVs increasing in our city very rapidly, and we're certainly getting a lot of inquiries from residents, particularly those without the off-street parking, the private parking, about how they can charge their vehicles. So while council's not going to be able to solve all the world's problems in this space, considering that traditionally petrol stations and the like have been private enterprise, we're certainly keen to support the move from the fossil fuels to electric vehicles. So we're going to do what we can in that space to make sure that there is infrastructure out there available for people who are purchasing EVs to be able to charge their cars. I think this is a great initiative, and hopefully we can fast track it and really get some progress and get some infrastructure out there for people to use.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay, with the second, would like to speak to the motion.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Firstly, can I just thank the Acting Director of Planning and Environment, Fran O'Brien, and the author of this particular report, Acting Manager of City Futures, Bruce Marshall. Really appreciate the efforts that the officers have put in here. The whole electric vehicle space, the charging, whether it's within the confines of council's assets, or it's looking at how this is going to occur in our residential streets within one's own driveway. This is going to be a dynamic space for some time to come. What Councillor Crawford has alluded to here, I think, is important, and we need to be really clear. While some can reasonably say, oh, well, hold on, what role does council have in participating in the provision of energy for any vehicle? Why aren't we getting involved in the fossil fuel industry? Well, quite simply, councillors, it's the fossil fuel industry that has led to the climate crisis that we are currently experiencing today. We're looking at a local level to have global implications through our actions in this particular arena. We've had questions, councillors, earlier this evening about air quality. What we're trying to do with this particular policy, and we will continue to do, and I give the community every assurance that whilst this council has been looking at becoming a solar city, this will not die. We will continue to do this. We will be part of the transition to a cleaner environment. We will do something positive about the air quality through initiatives such as our policy on electric charging vehicles. We will be proactive in this space. I think it's fair to say Great work has been done to date, but more is to come in the future. We intend to be part of the vanguard that facilitates the change agenda in electric vehicles. I commend the motion to you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. I need a speaker for the motion. Yeah, Councillor Thomas. Sorry if I miss you. Yell out.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Thanks, Mayor. I just probably wanted to add one thing, I guess, just in the context of we're having a bit of a transport heavy agenda tonight, and I suppose in the context of some of the questions that we've had through the public questions, and also, you know, discussing the, we'll be discussing the freight plan and the integrated transport strategy, that, electric vehicles, whilst they are, they remove some of the environmental impact, associated with traffic. We still do need an integrated approach. So this is kind of one, I guess, part of that whole integrated approach that we do need to take to moving people around our city and providing the necessary infrastructure, albeit in this way, the clean infrastructure to do that. So just kind of, I guess, wanted to remind people that, this is a great move. I fully endorse it. I fully support it. But it's not sort of the end of the equation, I suppose. Maybe that's what sort of Councillor Clark was alluding to a little bit as well. So, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Any councillors speak for the motion? Okay. Anyone speak against the motion? No. Now I put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion is carried. Agenda item 9.3, Councillor submission to the State Government inquiry into food security in Victoria. Can I call for Councillor to move a motion in regarding to agenda item 9.3? Councillor Thomas? Yep.
Yep. So that Council endorsed the submission to the State Government's inquiry into food security in Victoria, shown in attachment 1.
Thank you. Can I call for Councillor to second the motion? Councillor Hoge? Yep. Are there any questions or point of clarification, Councillor? Would the mover be allowed to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Probably just, I guess, raise a couple of points. I think it's great that we are responding to this request, I guess, by the state to provide input into the food security inquiry. And probably for me, the most important thing is recognising that, access to particularly fresh food, but secure, fresh, affordable food is a basic human right. It's certainly a basic human need, and there are too many Victorians and too many residents in Maribyrnong, as we see every Monday night down in Central Footscray, but also at the various food pantries that have been operating since COVID, the various emergency food relief programs which are becoming overwhelmed, can't keep up with the demand. So, but also we need to think creatively in this space, because, we can't keep doing the same thing that we've been doing, and thinking about sort of creative responses or creative proactive initiatives that might help people to have access, food themselves, or have that support provided in other ways by various levels of government, but also not-for-profits and other community-led, groups and initiatives that can sort of wrap around people in need. So yes, thanks to the officers for bringing this to us. I think it's got some good ideas for that hopefully the state will consider and pick up at some point, so that we can really make a statewide impact on food security. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Would a second would like to speak to the motion?
Sure, thanks, Mayor. Just briefly, I think it is pretty remarkable, and it's worth us reflecting as a council that, depending on whose figures and whose reports you read, Australia is now either the first, second or third richest country in terms of individualised income and wealth in the world, and that in that context we have such a growing amount of food inequality. And of course, as referred to in the report, one of the big drivers of that, well, I would argue the biggest driver of that has been the fact that I think outside of Spain in the OECD, we are the country with the largest increases in grocery prices over the last 3-4 decades in the world. And of course, in no small part due to the duopoly/monopoly that we have in supermarkets. I raise all that because I think it's the submission here is very good, and but I also wanted to refer in particular to the fact that the work that Council has done and Council officers have done around the Maribyrnong Food Inequality Network, and to refer to the fact that just the title is good. I like that it's called the Food Inequality Network, not the Insecurity Network, because it's not just in the bigger world or in the country that access to food is being is unequal. It's the same in our city. Like if you look at the aggregated data from 2021 census, which the Age has done a very good report on about 6 months ago, if you take disadvantage on a scale from 1 to 10, if you take disadvantage, the greatest disadvantage to be 1 and the greatest advantage to be 10, Yarraville and Seddon sit at 10, Braybrook sits at 1. Maidstone, I think, at 6 off the top of my head, and Footscray at 8, I think, or 9. I wanted to focus in on Braybrook because that is obviously, you know, a big sort of reflection of the inequality that exists in our own city. And in particular, thinking of, I know we've talked about this before, but just one of our food programs, we have food relief, not council's programs, it's just one of the many food relief programs that there are in our city. I lost count of how many, but the Duke Street one, which actually doesn't just service us, it services Brisbane, but about 60% of their clientele, because their main distribution point is in Central West, about 60% plus of their clientele is from Braybrook, and they're now distributing roughly 2,200 kilograms of food per week, up to 400,000 meals per year. Now, if you sort of calculate Braybrook as being 60%, give or take of that, you can see the need in our city. So, and the submission points out that actually we have a particularly severe food insecurity in Maribyrnong, quoting some data from 2023, I believe, or report, 15% of households in Maribyrnong. So, yeah, I think it's really good work that we're doing this. It's part of our reality in our city. It's not just a bigger world problem. So the fact that we're doing this work and the actual practical work around the inequality network is great. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Holgate. I think the speaker for the motion. Councillor Crawford.
Yeah, thank you. Completely agree with what Councillor Holkera has said in that, well, all of it, but particularly around the fact that it's not food insecurity. There's plenty of food out there. It's just food inequality in that if you've got money, you can get it, no worries. But if you don't have money, it's not so easy to come by. And I'd love to see, particularly the federal government, take more ownership of inflation, because the Reserve Bank is a great thing, but just simply jacking up interest rates isn't the best way to deal with inflation. There's lots of other ways you can prevent inflation. There's lots of other ways you can deal with inflation. And you mentioned the supermarkets. Of course, rent is another one that there's a lot of opportunism that goes on when there's inflation, and people jack up prices not always because they need to, but often just because they can. And the ones that suffer are always, the ones that have the least amount of money. And with interest rates, I know quite a few people who would otherwise be quite wealthy that are finding themselves with food inequality at the moment just because they're spending all their money on their mortgage, just trying to be able to keep living in their home. So, yeah, I think this is very timely. I think it probably looking too much at the symptoms rather than the problems, but I do want to thank officers for pulling this together because it's an important piece of work. Thank you.
Councillor. I think the speaker for the motion.
Yeah.
Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I can only echo the sentiments of Councillor Crawford and Councillor O'Hara here. The fact is, councillors, there was a time in Braybrook where it was easier to get packaged liquor, packaged alcohol, than it was to get fresh food, fresh vegetables. What an indictment on our community. What an indictment on what is a system that is holding up one of the richest countries in the world today. I weep because it does have an impact on the mental health of those who are at the pointy end of food insecurity. Families are having to go without food to make mortgage payments, rent payments. The cost of goods, the cost of food is just inordinate. Yeah, the inequalities that we are being foisted with these days is remarkable, and it is the socio-economically impoverished that are at the hard end of this. And of that group, it's the children that I fear for more than anything else. We have a responsibility here, and I think it's incumbent on all levels of government to see what can be done to address this situation. I commend the motion to you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. And it's speaker for the motion. And he will speak against the motion. I put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? No again. I declare the motion is carried. Thank you. Agenda item 9.4, Council submission to the update of the Victoria Freight Plan. Can I call for Councillor to move a motion in regarding to agenda item 9.4? Councillor Crawford?
I'd like to do a slightly different one, if I may. Well, it's got an addition to it, one that I've sort of crafted myself. So basically, it's the council endorses submission to the Department of Transport and Planning update of the Victorian Freight Plan discussion paper shown in attachment 2, but then I'd like to add another point that we add an additional heading on safety, including calls for the reduction of speed limits on state roads, the improvement of safety for all road users at major intersections, and a ban of trucks on Williamstown Road.
Can I get advice from the governor? Is that?
Through the chair.
Yep. Yeah.
So you need to ask for a second.
Huh?
You need to ask for a second.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sorry. Can I ask Councillor the second motion, Councillor Thomas? Are there any questions or point of clarification, Councillor?
Well,
Aye.
Chair, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Through the chair, we need to type it up so councillors can see what they're voting on.
Yeah, I can.
Well, none of us
Do
know.
you want me to email you that, or?
If you
Yeah.
recite it to them again, Simon, it might be.
I'll just email the line.
So do we have to get the vote
It
again?
goes to a vote because there's a second.
That's right.
And if the vote's done, it replaces the substantive motion. If it's lost, you put the original motion and call for a vote.
Okay, so we have to go to the,
I'll tell you what.
okay, yep, okay, second for that. Now, are there any questions? Yeah. So are there any point of clarification, Councillor? So I go into the process. Yes, Councillor Thomas?
I just wanted to clarify the point about Willie Road, that's an adopted council position already, isn't it?
No,
We
I
have a
think it
position
is.
from
I'm just clarifying that
2019.
it is.
not ban all trucks on Williamstown Road.
The previous council voted for that.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, we did.
So
Yeah.
I need some clearly guided now. I said go into the process, okay?
That's why it hasn't been in our advocacy material.
It's in the air quality improvement plan,
There's a council decision on
which
it,
is
very
council
clear.
adopted,
Where,
and it's a council approved decision in 2019.
2019, I can send it to you.
So can I go to that?
I think we just wait for the wording to
waiting
come
for
up.
Governance. Let's bring up the agenda.
I'll send it to you.
Now, so it's just email.
So now,
Just a point of clarification.
yep, okay.
I mean, this
Any
has been
input?
sprung on us without any
Yeah,
time to really
that's-
think it through. I mean, it's very wide, calls for reductions of speed limits on state roads. To what, on what roads? Is that just a general slow it all down?
Well, I'm certainly open to debate. To be fair, I did come up with this about
We
one.
all are, we
one-
usually
Yeah, but
share.
that's-
Yeah,
things
just,
ahead of time.
if I can answer your question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I came up with this about 1 minute ago, so bear with me.
We know.
I haven't wordsmithed it, obviously, but
Yeah, we know.
So, okay.
basically, these are things that have been requested of me from residents over the last few years. I did ask for officers to have a look at this, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So this is sort of the only opportunity I've had, especially with the questions that have come in tonight. I feel it's imperative that we address some of these issues. So state roads, the main one is Geelong Road, but I didn't want to specify that in case councils had other roads they wanted looked at. Happy to say Geelong Road if you prefer. The intersections, I can point out some, but again, I don't want you to think that I'm picking ones just because they're in my ward or something. But, you know, certainly along Geelong Road again, Somerville Road, Williamstown Road intersection, Barclay Street intersections, they're all shockers. And, you know, should be ban on trucks on Williamstown Road. For government.
Ban on Williamstown Road, yeah.
So, can I answer? Is it the-
I think
Sorry,
governance
go-
is
Governance.
Okay, councillor, oh, sorry, government.
governance.
Through the chair, the process is Councillor Crawford's moved the motion, we have a seconder. Councillor Crawford should be extended the courtesy to speak to the motion,
Yeah,
and then there can be questions.
that's right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Have
So
it-
that
yeah,
is a
have it
a
proceed.
clarification, yeah?
Yes, yeah, so Councillor Crawford should speak to the motion.
Yeah. Okay, councillor Crawford, would you like to speak to your motion, please?
Yeah, thank you. And I've sort of have already, but I'll just, I guess, sort of sum it up a bit more. So obviously point one was what was in the original recommendation, so I won't touch on that. But yes, I felt that certainly the ban of trucks on Williamstown Road is something our community desperately wants. So I think it's important that we include that. And I just mentioned the speed limits, Geelong Road. I know I've had lots of residents saying that the section from the bridge that goes over the railway line down to Somerville Road, asking for that to be 60 kilometres an hour. So I'm happy to be specific on that one if councillors prefer. I'm easy either way. And like I said, there's a number of intersections that are shockers. I'm sure there's some shockers on Ballarat Street that councillors might want to consider as well. So leave that open for now, but again, happy to do specifics if councillors prefer.
Okay, thank you. Would the second would like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And I just want to thank MTAG for asking those questions, earlier tonight about some of the specific details and, keeping up their advocacy work around trucks on roads. And just, I guess, to confirm that the air quality, I've just looked up the air quality improvement plan, which says that council passed a resolution on the 31st of July 2019 to advocate for the introduction of curfews and a truck ban on Williamstown Road. So it is an adopted council position. I support the amendment. I don't think it's, it's in line with council policy, adopted policy, so I'm happy to support that. And thanks to officers for, I think, getting a submission into this, which is probably not where we've been before, but I think it's a really important space for council to start advocating in, because it's definitely part of the equation of our air quality and truck issues through our neighbourhoods. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I need to speak for the motion. Councillor Hawking?
Yeah, I don't know what you're doing to it now, but I was going to suggest, I think that it would be strengthened if it was referred to specifically to reducing reduction of speed limits in sort of heavy pedestrian areas. 'Cause I'll just give you a very concrete example. I've just moved back into the neighbourhood. We used to live on McPherson Street in that neighbourhood, and I'm just back, so I'm starting to walk across that corner of Geelong and Barclay, where Footscray Primary School is, which has always been an issue, and our two sons went to that school, so we used to walk it a lot. Back there, and I had the same conversation the first week I was back there with the lollipop person who said to me, every day I feel like I'm going to get killed. And I invite anybody else to go down there and ask her that question, because you'll get the same reply. I think where you've got a school on that main road, for sure. So, in heavy pedestrian areas, I think that, if it's all state roads, it sort of...
No, so like I said, happy for it to be very specific if council...
It doesn't have to be specific, it just has to be specific to heavy pedestrian, or where there's large populations, etc. You can have etc. I'm not going to enter the detail. My point is that I think there is an argument, and that's why I support it. Certainly the ban on Williamstown Road trucks, that's already been, the argument for that's already been made. But for looking at state roads in terms of where there's large residential populations making a lot of pedestrian use, crossings, etc. of those areas, that has to be looked at. And we've got quite a few of those hotspots in our part of the world.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jorge. Are there a speaker against the motion?
Yeah.
Councillor Clark?
Yeah, I've got to say, councillors, I've never seen such a terrific opportunity absolutely turned into a train wreck with such elegance. With such remarkable,
Elegance.
A train wreck of such remarkable proportions, I can't believe. What Councillor Crawford is offering up at the, and he thought, as he said, he thought this up a minute before the motion, was put. I've got to say, councillors, I 100% believe that there needs to be a ban on Williamstown Road. Absolutely. And I absolutely believe that there needs to be reductions in the speed of traffic on not just state roads, but a number of roads. But councillors, if you're going to do this, if we're going to do this, for goodness sake, can we have a degree of credibility? Can we have done this in a way where the officers have been charged with the responsibility of looking at the detail and coming back with a detailed proposition that would have been considered by council in a briefing, and then we could have explored the detail before it came here, and no worries, a considered proposition I'm sure would have gotten through. But instead, coming up with something a minute before the motion is called upon, that's just ridiculous. And what I say is, this is not how government takes place. Government has to be considered. I'm going to vote against this, and yet I fully support the tenets of it. I fully support the intent. But you give the game away for no other reason other than wanting to shoot from the hip. It is the greatest example of amateur hour I have seen in 4 years. I am so disappointed, Councillor Crawford. I must say I am beside myself. If you were fair dinkum about this, you would have spoken to your council colleagues beforehand. We would have considered it with you beforehand, and we would have come to a considered decision this evening. But instead, by doing this, shooting from the hip, as far as I'm concerned, it is a fantastic opportunity lost. Councillors, I suggest we reject the motion and go back, and I foreshadow returning to the substantive motion if this motion is lost. Really sad, Simon, really sad.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Any speaker against the motion? Councillor Carter?
I think Councillor Clark has probably said most of the points that I'd make, but I do agree that when the throwaway lines are, oh, there must be some shockers in there, I'm sure we can find them, or I'm not getting into the detail. I'm really sorry, but amending a submission to the Victorian Freight Plan on the run is unprofessional conduct by a council. If you want to be effective in advocacy to state government, and I would have supported that, you need to actually identify and why these, as Councillor Jorge has rightly pointed out, one example in his community, but we should be identifying them. What exactly are the triggers? What we're hearing, and actually do the piece of work. And we didn't return to points of order because I wanted to ask, Councillor Crawford also said he'd put this to officers, but they never got back to him, and I'd be interested in the time in which they were provided to respond. Yeah, because we need to follow that up then, 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
But to just say, not getting into the detail, I mean, we're elected here to be in the
Get into the detail.
And it's about being effective. You don't want to just have this all-encompassing motion and just put it up to state and go, make sure every road's safe, slow everything down, the intersections. We should be really targeted so that we're able to present a compelling, evidence-based case of where our hot spots are. You know, this was clearly articulated and the work was done down in Joseph's Road with the reduction there. So I fully support the aspirations. One point I'd say, and it's always been said about Williamstown Road, there won't be curfews on that road until the freight the freight plan of moving some of those container deposits further out and west. I know Melissa Horn was doing work on that 5 years ago because it is an integral part of that network. Our problem is we have too many freight container deposits or storage facilities in the inner west. And they've been very clear about that. So we do need this broader freight plan so that we can get those truck plans. But I'd really welcome more detailed, considered thought put into this so that it's something that we're actually comfortable with, because this just feels like grandstanding. And all the communities asked me, well, that's it. But we are tasked with doing the work. And we have a full team of officers and executives to do that, and I take on board your point. But again, we almost ended up with, you know, separated bike lanes on a road that we would never have got approval because policy making was made on the run. So no, I do not support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Any other speaker against the motion? Councillor Twain?
I reiterate what has been said already in respect of the core principle of the amendment has all of the good intent that every council in this room has. The merits of it, understandably, are warranted. But I have said this time and time again, not just in relation to this, but in relation to prior motions that have been put before council, that where it is, to quote myself, undercooked, it cannot be before council again. Every project that council has pursued in this particular term, I won't speak to any term prior, has had significant consultation, not just with community, but with consultants in the right area, has given officers opportunities to conduct the relevant research, to provide us with recommendations, and then for us to then say yes or no, to have the discussions between ourselves, and to be able to do that in confidence. Right now, we're being put on the spot to, and I appreciate, you know, the wording might not be what you intended, Simon, but to say to councillors, I thought of the wording in particular, and at the time I'm phrasing you wrong, I thought of the wording 1 minute ago. It puts us in a position where we're well and truly in the line of fire for someone to say, well, that's bad conduct. That's real bad conduct for council laws. And I do not mean to put you in that spotlight, especially as a councillor that is as tenured as yourself. You've been in the game for well over, much longer than I. But it doesn't yet, but it may bring a bad disrepute. Yeah, it may bring some disrepute to council's representation.
Use your own words.
I know, but that is in effect what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, fair enough.
It brings a bad reputation to us in terms of the way that we.
Can I have a point of order, Mayor? Could
Yep.
councillors please stick to the actual wording of the amendment and not having a crack at whether this will bring council into disrepute? I mean, that's got nothing to do with the amendment that's been proposed.
But
Order, please.
Sorry, councillor, I'm saying the wording directly from the motion. It's calling for the reduction of speed limits on state roads. I'm sorry, councillor, what state roads are you talking about? That is directly from the motion. That is undercooked. Councillor, the improvement of safety for all road users at major intersections. Which intersections, councillor? And abandoned trucks on Williamstown Road. I mean, I know that Councillor Crawford, and I apologise for quoting you. I know you've said this, that is not specifically the only road you're referring to. It's just a pure example. But it is an undercooked amendment. You want us to go ahead and agree to it. I have no issues for the principal intent of it, as I've said before. But don't sit here and say that that's a point of order to be made. It well and truly isn't.
Thank you, Councillor Trent. Could I ask some clarification? Councillor Thomas is a second motion. Do you agree with the number 2, add an additional heading on safety including? Are you support that? Are you happy with that? To be added on to that before we ask the person to move to exercise their right?
Yeah, it's like the mover needs to be happy with that.
Well, he
So are you,
answered it a minute
are you,
ago.
are you
Do we
happy
get to
with
speak
that
to the
addition?
next amendment?
Are you happy? Are you the second? Are you happy with that line?
Yes.
Yellow, you happy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So I would have asked the mover to the motion to exercise their right to reply.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
Councillor, I don't have time for grandstanding or the energy.
That's what you're doing!
You're doing it, councillor.
If I can speak. What I'm trying to do, like I said, this was raised 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, it wasn't included. And yes, I should have checked when it came out on Friday, but I've actually got other things that are going on and I've just realised, so I apologise for that. I've asked it, so I've added it in here for debate. Councillor, you have suggested that you would support a ban, including a ban on trucks on Williamstown Road. So given that the rest of the amendment isn't going to make it, I'm happy to just cut it back to that. So just an additional point with the ban on trucks on Williamstown Road, if we're allowed to edit it again. This is a democracy, it's for debating. Would you rather have...
Can we have governance? How many times?
Can we have-
Don't negotiate in the chamber on amendments.
This is not.
Do you want it your way or not?
A pub or a bar.
Order, please. Could I ask the suggestion from governance, please?
Through the chair, councillors, can I make a suggestion that with this we vote on, when we go to the vote, we vote on item 1 first,
Yeah.
and then we'll vote on item 1 second, so at the very least we can get a motion in terms of...
Well, we're getting there, but the second part keeps changing.
So can I change the motion?
He's just saying separating.
I should after that.
Why don't you go away and work on another motion and come back to us?
Where do you want me to go?
Huh?
Where do you want me to go?
No, work on a motion about safety and intersections. Like, do the
And
get
we'll
something
support
and bring it to
we'll
us.
The submission needs to be made.
No, but we can make that too because it's about. I mean, this isn't directly, exclusively related to freight.
When's the due date though?
You can put up a notice of motion anytime.
For
So
next month.
It's for the
We have
submission.
the minutes.
Councillor Thomas, yes? Councillor Thomas?
Yeah, could we hear Councillor Crawford's amended motion in full now?
Well,
What Councillor Crawford would like to propose to the chamber?
so I'm going to
be
keep it
voted?
really simple here for Councillor Clark because he doesn't like the rest of it. So just to include a ban on trucks on Williamstown Road in the submission. Yep.
Okay,
that was
so
it.
we,
Will that do,
that's what we
Councillor
can
Clark?
put to the vote.
I'm more than happy to support that.
Fantastic. Wasn't this a great conversation?
No,
Great
it was
debate.
embarrassing.
Well, you say it's embarrassing. I say we've got a big win because we've now got ban on trucks on
You
Williamstown
call
Road.
that when you're saying it's already
in
in
the
position.
submission.
Honestly, low hanging fruit.
Well, it wasn't in the submission, Councillor.
Do the work.
I've just done it.
Okay. So what's
Tell you what,
happening now?
I hope you're not working for me.
Governor?
Me too.
So,
We need to just go to the vote.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Mayor.
yep,
There's nothing
We just
substantive in
wanted
it.
to draw councillors' attention to the inclusion of within the submission, just to make it capable of being implemented. Yep.
Yeah.
so we all happy with that?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor. Yes. Seconder, happy, Bernadette?
Yep.
You happy, Councillor Thomas?
Yeah.
With that? Okay, now, the exercise right, we now we put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Okay, I declare the motion is carried. Phew.
No, it's not.
Ah, Thank you, councillor. Moving on. Okay, agenda item
what a waste.
9.5.
What a waste.
Maribyrnong Integrated Transport Strategy, MITS, and North-South Cycling Option Study update. I call for the councillor to move a motion in regard to agenda item 9.5. Could I call for Councillor Carter?
As per the officer recommendation, without amendments, that Council 1 notes the status of the Maribyrnong Integrated Transport Strategy Review and North-South Cycling Options Study, and 2, endorse an initial conversation with the community premised on the discussion paper shown in attachment 1 to provide feedback for the Maribyrnong Integrated Transport Strategy 2025 refresh program.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Could I call the councillor to second the motion? This item 9.5. Councillor Trent. Are there any questions upon a clarification, councillor? Would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
Briefly, just to obviously
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, question?
Got a question, sorry.
Yep.
Just have a question for officers probably just around the engagement, so I'm just trying to find the right page. I think it's on page 128 of the agenda, just around the engagement plan, where it talks about a comprehensive stakeholder engagement plan, and the first stage is primarily on Your City, Your Voice and some in-person events. Could we have some sort of detail and clarification around what that is actually going to look like?
Okay.
And what's the time frame for, is that just in mid-July to mid-August this year, or is that a longer period of time?
Director Petjet, would you please respond to
Yes,
that?
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. So the first stage engagement will be both through Your City, Your Voice, and some in-person events across the city, which will be at community facilities like sports pavilions and community hubs and those types of things, libraries. It'll be widespread geographically across the whole municipality. And so that's we're engaging on the discussion paper only, and then we'll go to the market for development of the actual strategy following that, with a intended end date to come back to council for adoption of the new strategy in June next year.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, so just so I'm clear, that it's not just Your City, Your Voice, there will be a variety of different event types for people to, you know, come along to, talk to officers, you know, provide input
Stage
that
2.
way, and that will all be captured as part of it.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now,
More
would,
detail.
would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
Briefly, councillors, I see this as a really exciting opportunity to have one of the most important discussions that we can have with our community. And testament to Councillor Thomas's point about making sure it's broad-ranging, accessible engagement. Because what we really need to do, and this was again prompted, I mean, we had the last MIT strategy, when was that, 2012. We weren't even talking about EV charges then. We weren't looking at ways to work within the planning scheme to perhaps, you know, if we're reducing parking, request rideshare alternatives and things like that within developments, and access to EV charges. So much has changed. But I see the opportunity in having an integrated strategy where all modalities are considered, where all the pressure points are articulated, in bringing the community on the journey with us. We are going to see enormous congestion in the years ahead, and I really want this to be, and I'm looking at Director Pat Jess, the best consultation, but really painting the picture. You love the West. You're going to be here in 20 years. This is what we're facing. So what are we prepared to sacrifice? How do we think we want to change some of our, and Councillor Thomas always speaks to this, the ambition of the community to convert local trips. If we're going to have, you know, a lot of traffic, how do we make a lot of it cleaner? There are so many conversations, but I think for those people who are really committed and wanting to be a part, it's not separating out cycling, it's not separating out, we know we need better bus services, much better bus services. It's about bringing it all into, well, to make less trips by car, what would you depend on? How do you get about the city? It's a very, very big conversation. Now, these are just, you know, the preliminary strategic directions, and I get that this is, as was admitted in our councillor briefing last week, it's a bit dry as a document, you know, but it's our job, well, it's the officer's job under the direction of Patrick Jess and the CEO to make sure this comes to life, because or else it will be a missed opportunity. How are people getting around now? But given what we know about what's coming, and we have data, how will their movements change? What would they like to see? What's their appetite for example? And it's wonderful to see that by the end of the year we'll have those options for consideration for the north-south cycling route. Really important to get that key connection. I was riding around New York last month and it was wonderful. I had to either catch public transport to get to that north-south cycling route, or I had to walk 3 blocks. Easy done, but you planned that journey because there weren't separated bike lanes on every road. So I think having that conversation is really important. So I hope we have wonderful planning for this. And I think it's an exciting time for the city because we had, and this was prompted again by, we've got a whole range of policy documents that weren't really talking to each other. And we as a group were finding ourselves in conflict when certain policies would come up at one point in time to promote one thing or to support one position, but it was in direct contradiction of another policy position. So I think that the aspiration is to have that conversation, to bring it all into one piece and have an updated and refreshed MITS that actually looks to the future and the changes we might need to make. Because I know I met with traders on the weekend from West Footscray that were a bit concerned. They had a presentation to them about, you know, cycling and what some people in the community would like to see change in West Footscray, and they were adamant that they didn't support that. So we need to build ambition together, and I think that's bringing people on the journey. So I commend this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Would the second would like to speak to the motion?
Following Secretary, I believe Councillor Carter has said order needs to be served.
Thank you. Any other speak for the motion? Yeah. Councillor Clark?
Yeah, can I just speak to what Councillor Carter has alluded to here, which is the key to all of this? Planning, considered, understanding that there are different dimensions to the transport strategy that need to, as opposed to there being friction points, there needs to be an understanding of how those friction points are worked through. We need to understand that as part of the planning process that yes, we will have a commitment to electric vehicles. And as part of that process, yes, there will be an investment that historically councils would not have invested in, such as charging stations. But this is part of a considered integrated transport strategy. Understanding the role of cycling and what needs to change. Do we need to designate whole roadways, north, south and east, west, that are just for bikes? Cycling is no longer just for the Lycra Brigade. It is a legitimate means of transport. I think that has that particular horse has bolted some time ago. We all understand, all the way to the MAV, we all understand, that's the Municipal Associations of Victoria, understand the need for cycling to be included as part of this type of strategy. If we're fair dinkum about changing the air quality, we have to understand the intersectoral dimensions of our transport program. Yes, the fuels that are used are going to have to change if we're going to be sustainable. Councillors, we're going to grow by to in excess of 150,000 residents. There is no question about that. We need to do that. We have a housing crisis in this country. But to manage the housing crisis, it's not just building housing infrastructure. It's ensuring that people can get around. It's ensuring that people can access work, access jobs. This is complex, councillors. We need to go to the people and engage the community to ensure that anything that we're doing is reconciled and grounded in the support of our community. It's a huge opportunity. I can only echo the sentiments of Councillor Carter here. We will go forward in a considered fashion.
Thank you,
I commend the
Councillor
motion
Clark.
to you.
Councillor Hokera.
Start by agreeing with the point that Sarah started her, Councillor Carter, started her contribution with. I think this is, obviously a very important conversation. I mean, local government, it's about where people live and how people get around where they live. It's pretty simple, really. So it is a very important conversation. So in essence, the main point I want to make, I think this is fine as a starting point, but there's obviously, even as the question time pointed out, a lot of things to discuss. So the main point I want to hit home is the need for this to be as much as possible a deliberative process in line with the Local Government Act. And I think we should explore, Council should explore the LGA's advice on that and look at some independent facilitation of that, because I think it is, as Councillor Carter said, one of the most important conversations. So I'd really like to push that in particular. And then just to say too, I think with this sort of conversation, as Councillor Carter said, it's a conversation where Council has to not just reflect sentiment in the community, but also lead, provide some leadership, provide some arguments that may or may not be convincing. I mean, people make decisions about transport pretty logically, really, right? Pretty logically. Now, the simple reality is that public transport in this city, compared to Sydney and Melbourne, is particularly bad. In fact, the exact figures on it demonstrate that. We're actually closer. So only about 18% of people use public transport to travel to work, or that option in Melbourne, compared to 27% in Sydney. And we're actually closer to Brisbane, which I think is 14-15%. So that's a big starting point. People are often having to make very logical decisions about how they get somewhere because the public transport options aren't there. But on the other hand, this is where the leadership part comes in. As the Climate Council pointed out in the most recent report, what's it called, something Suburbia, I think Next Stop Suburbia, which came out only a couple of weeks ago. As they pointed out in that report, in terms of providing leadership, they're calling for a shifting of 30% of projected private vehicle kilometres by 2030 to be shifted to shared and active transport. That would require 5% a year. So that requires political leadership, not just from local government, obviously, but from us certainly. And we've got easier options in some regards, because as some of the question time questions pointed out, with some of the data that was quoted, because we're in the inner city, we've actually got some more options that aren't even there for our fellow residents in the greater western suburbs. Anyway, I think the main point I wanted to make is that I think this should be, as much as possible, a deliberative process that really, draws on as much of the community thinking and opinion as we can.
Okay.
I like the idea of the
Thank you. And is the speaker for the motion? Councillor Thomas?
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I think the key to getting this right, I agree with what Councillor Hawker has just said, is really about the conversation with the community, the conversation that we might lead the community on, and really getting into something like a community of practice that can guide that conversation, so that we're hearing from different voices. We're not always just hearing from the same voices, and we're learning from each other, and we're understanding, I think, more fully, why people make decisions, how they make decisions, across the full sort of transport spectrum. I also think it's about shifting culture. If it's easy to get in your car, then maybe you will just get in your car. And if there's no car share out the front, then you'll look elsewhere for an option. So I think it's about shifting that culture so that it becomes not like less car centric, I think, or less vehicle centric, and we open it up so that our residents have real choice about how they want to, as I think Councillor Hawker put it, how they kind of just move around the city, how they make those day-to-day transport choices. And I'm not convinced, Councillor Clark, that bike riding is yet seen by a lot of people as a legitimate form of transport, just from my own experience of being on the road. But that's the kind of conversation I think we need to have through this process, is about helping people to understand why other people make certain choices, and to sort of get inside their heads. So I think, yeah, I agree. We've had a lot of those questions kind of point to perhaps some of the information that's not in the discussion paper. You know, not seeing the transport hierarchy in there is probably a bit of a disappointment, but, you know, the suggestion about looking at the Better Buses network data and the work that's been done there by Melbourne Uni, I think that would be really good. Looking at those short trips, looking at mode shift and behaviour change, I think it would be really great to be having those kinds of conversations with everybody across the community. So, yeah, let's hope we get a lot of involvement and a lot of interest.
Thank you. Are there any speaker against the motion? I put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion is carried. Agenda item 9.6, response to the note of motion 2023-11, supporting peace in Gaza and Palestine. Can I call for Councillor to move a motion in regarding to agenda item 9.6? Councillor Hokeka.
Officer recommendation that Council note the response to notice of motion 2023:11 supporting peace in Gaza and Palestine, and 2, consider notice of motion 2023:11 supporting peace in Gaza and Palestine closed.
Can I call for the council to second the motion for this? Councillor Crawford. Are there any questions or point of clarification, Councillor? Would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
Yes, please, Mayor. First of all, I really want to thank Phil and the team for the work that was done on this. It was a lot of work, as I'll point out. The report, I wanted today to just pick out bits of the report because I think it is important, given how much work was put into it, to note this. The report noted that Council's approach was underpinned by various principles and understandings, including an understanding of socio-economic issues affecting the community, principles of equity, diversity and equal opportunity, and respect for human rights, the rule of law and international norms of behaviour. As with Darebin Council's approach, the report relied on UN fact-finding and reporting in regard to the implications of the Israeli settlements on civil, political, economic, social and cultural rights of the Palestinian people throughout occupied Palestine. Now, of course, no report like this can be entirely thorough, especially given the extensive resources required to interrogate investments in a day and age where, as we know, money is tied up across so many industries and asset management firms in all sorts of unethical investments and practices, for that matter. But what Maribyrnong Council, led by Phil's team or the governor's team, what Maribyrnong Council has managed should still, in my mind, be an example to all levels of government, not just other local government councils. Maribyrnong Council followed through on the motion supporting peace in Gaza and Palestine, interrogating 2,506 creditors in order to explore, as directed by our resolution, to quote, options for Council to cancel contracts with companies that support Israel's illegal occupation of Palestine or profit from it, especially companies that supply equipment to the Israeli Defence Force. Maribyrnong Council's motion also resolved to write to the Prime Minister and Foreign Minister calling on the Australian Government to, quote, strongly condemn the war crimes being carried out by Israel against the Palestinians in Gaza and all military, economic, political and diplomatic ties with the State of Israel until it complies with its obligations under international law. Unfortunately, our correspondence did not receive a reply in regards to the letter written by Council to the Federal Government. I feel, as far as I was informed anyway, I feel like, I'll finish on this, I feel like our Council, due to this report, and our community for that matter, can feel like we're standing on high moral ground. Only this month, Lancet, which people might know is the oldest peer-reviewed medical journal, in fact one of the oldest peer-reviewed journals in the world, founded in 1823, confirmed the reliability and the validity of the death toll in Gaza, over 37,000 people. Sadly, the Lancet report also suggested that due to the ongoing killings and the growing spread of disease, starvation, etc., they estimate the death toll will likely exceed over 186,000 people. I'm not sure any more words can be or even should be said about what we're experiencing, but I'll finish on this final sentence. Certainly my heart goes out to all those in our community with connections to Palestine, which we know there are many, and say that I hope our city can be a special place of welcome for the families arriving, and there are many from Gaza. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hawke. Would the second would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Crawford.
Just briefly, firstly, thank Councillor Hawke for moving the motion in the first place and leading on this, and also, as you say, to officers who have done the work. It is significant. I know some people have criticised us saying it's not a space for local government, but I think it's helped to facilitate an important debate in our community. And I've spoken to people on both sides of this argument, or if that's what you want to call it. I mean, it's obviously a lot more than that, but I think I've had some really good conversations with people, and so I'm glad that I've had that opportunity. It's because of this motion. So, yeah, thank you. That's all I want to say.
Are there any speaker for the motion? Any speaker against the motion? I put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Okay, I declare the motion is carried. Agenda item 9.7, Audit and Risk Committee Biannual Report, May 2024. Can I call for the councillor to move a motion in regard to agenda item 9.7? Councillor Clark?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Councillors, I move that Council endorse the Audit and Risk Committee Biannual Report, May 2024, shown at attachment 1.
Thank you. Can I call for councillor second the motion? Councillor Carter? Are there any questions upon the clarification, councillor? Okay. Would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
Just to speak to the work of the Audit and Risk Committee itself that stood behind the report. I think great effort is made to ensure that we are able to account for all the dollars that are spent. I think every aspect, every department, every portfolio has been put on its mettle, and in the Audit Committee, where there are independent representatives who are highly skilled and highly capable in the field of public accounting, I think that they're more than happy to attest to the great work that this city has undertaken in ensuring that its financial governance is absolutely secure as best it possibly can be. I can only commend the work of the committee and thank all members of our management, of executive leadership team, headed very ably by our chief executive. It's financially, councillors, we're in a great position, but we're in a great position because of a lot of work. And if it wasn't for that work, quite simply, our finances would not be as secure as they are today. Councillors, I commend the motion to you.
Thank you, councillor Clark. The second would like to speak to the motion.
Formally seconded.
Thank you. Are there any speaker for the motion? Are there any speaker against the motion? I would put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? I realise that Councillor Thomas is not here on the grid. Thank you. I declare the motion is carried. Agenda item 9.8, Governance Report, June 2024. Can I call for councillor to move a motion in regard to agenda item 9.8? Councillor Tran?
Per the officer's recommendation, the council, 1, note the update regarding council's motion to the Australian Local Government Association's 2024 National General Assembly, and 2, note the governance report containing the record of informal meetings of councillors and councillor delegate reports for June 2024 to be made available on council's website for the term of the council.
Thank you, councillor. Can I call for councillor to second the motion? Councillor Carter? Are there any questions upon a clarification, councillor? No. Would the mover would like to speak to the motion?
Only very briefly, Mayor, to acknowledge your attendance at the National ALGA conference, and that of council's 5 motions, our motion for data, digital technology and cybersecurity, community-led emergency management planning and support for asylum seekers and refugees were passed. And congratulate you, Mayor, on the passing of those particular motions.
Thank you, councillor. Right. Okay, would the second would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Carter?
Formally seconded.
I didn't speak for the motion. Councillor Clark?
Yeah, again, I can only echo the sentiments of the move of the motion. Councillor Tran here. The thing that I just really want to highlight, and it was brought up earlier at question time, our motion on action on air pollution. I've got to say, councillors, I'm staggered that there would a motion like this is lost for any reason whatsoever. I'd suggest that those who voted against such, or our particular motion, have never been to jurisdictions like Delhi, have never been to jurisdictions like Bangkok. I can tell you, we enjoy much, much better air quality here now than even Melbourne in the 1960s. I don't mind saying, councillors, in the 1960s, where heating was fundamentally briquette driven, coal, pieces of variant on coal, and great swathes of the housing right throughout metropolitan Melbourne used this particular commodity as a heating device. You could not see the Dandenongs from St Albans. They just did not exist. I was surprised when I first saw them as a kid. Air pollution is something that has an impact on us all. And beyond us, it has a terrible impact on our children. For me, any jurisdiction that wouldn't support action on having a cleaner quality of air is thoughtless. I can only commend this council on its efforts to make this a cleaner place to live. Councillors, I commend the motion to you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Any other speaker for the motion? I would like to say a couple of words in terms of Acting CEO and I attending the NGA conference in Canberra. And it's a very interesting, I mean, there's so many, I think, over 200 something motion that we, as you can see, that we passed. 3 motions were passed and 1 decline and 1 lost. Yeah, I did ask a lot of, councillors around the country to support that. One of thing that I think supporting the asylum seeker for the refugee, this is very, very important. And I mean, all of those are very important motion. But there's a lot of them, you gain and you lose. So, but I'm happy with that. So, thank you,
Well done,
Councillor. Thank
well
you.
done.
Yeah. Any speaker against the motion? Now I put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? So I declare the motion is carried. Advise councillor there is no not to the motion to be tabled at this meeting. Councillor question time. I move to the councillor question time. Question must be according with rule 53.5 of the governance rule. Any question time, councillor?
Yeah,
Councillor?
I
Yes,
do
councillor.
actually. Sorry,
Carter?
councillors, I know you're all eager to
Yeah.
get out. But to the chair and however you wish to delegate it, we've had a number of emails to us from residents in and around the new Footscray Hospital site around the change in parking conditions, and I guess there has been a period of time of obviously construction and building works and permits and things like that, but given that we have had quite a few residents in the last month from streets, I'm just wondering about what plans may be underway, are underway, to look at obviously the transference or at least doing some scoping in those neighbouring streets, because we had a permit system and a system for the old hospital. What are we doing to plan for parking regulation in and around the new hospital?
Can Acting CEO, can you respond to that? You have.
Short answer is I'm not sure.
You can take
Councillor,
it on
we might
notice. I
take
just
that
want
one on notice and
to.
get
It
back
saves
to you.
me an email
Certainly,
right now.
certainly very happy to get back to you on that one.
Thank you, Councillor
Yes.
Well,
Carter.
Thank you
front
for the
of
question.
mine.
The
Thank you.
Acting CEO would notice and
I'd like
get
to
back
do
to
some
you.
work on the question.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, Councillor Hawke.
Another question, probably less complicated, but also maybe I can take on those. But I'm just wondering if we can at some point get some sort of public notification out or information out about the active transport, the MATAC committee, because for a while we've been understandably, we've been in a process of changing the terms of reference, but obviously that's tied into the discussion we started. So just maybe it has to be tied into the deliberative process itself, but just information about, when that might, or not an exact date or anything, but when we might be roughly looking at that terms of reference and what the committee might look like, or to what extent it's sort of shaped into the deliberative process, because probably that's what really has to happen. So anyway, just
Stakeholder meetings.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor. So there is no more question time. I declare the question time is closed. So, there, urgent business, any urgent business?
Oh, no.
No? Councillor?
I don't know,
No,
ask
the
Councillor.
Confidential business? There is no
Anything
confidential.
urgent?
Now, I declare the meetings closed at 8:41 p.m. Thank you very much, Councillor.